driving the streets, nobody here. It's barren. You see the emergency vehicles, desolate land, the wasteland.
That's going to be the hardest part, is that there'll be loved ones and friends, who are not going to be coming back.
Under the ashes of uncertainty, residents of Slave Lake are finding strength.
One thing I know coming out of it, that when you come to a place where everything is being shaken all around you, the only solid place to stand is on the rock, which is Jesus.
Now is a time of transition for Nancy Larocque and her neighbors. The town of Slave Lake is beginning to rebuild after a devastating forest fire. On May 15th, winds swept nearby forest fires in northern Alberta through Slave Lake in a matter of hours. No one was hurt, but more than 430 homes were destroyed.
I've got a house to go back to, but a house without loved ones around you feels empty.
The streets of this small Alberta town are now eerily silent and empty. Slave Lake's 7,000 residents were forced to evacuate on the afternoon of May 15th. Nancy was attending a baptism service when she got the news.
I just said to him, Bert, I says, if it comes down to an evacuation, I said, my heart is not to pack our vehicle with things, but my heart is to pack our vehicle with people, because of the church I attend, I'm usually picking up people for church and dropping them off who don't have vehicles, and so I was so well aware of a need.
Nancy used her van to transport 6 people out of Slave Lake that day. She left the town with little more than a suitcase, as did thousands of others like her. No one knew what to expect as they drove away, watching flames overtake their hometown.
And it was scary, just trying to evacuate, because it took us like half an hour just to move 1 kilometer, and trying to communicate through text messaging or calling was very challenging, trying to say, okay, meet me here or meet me there.
It will take some time before Slave Lake can even begin to rebuild. A third of the town has been destroyed, as well as more than 430 homes. Still, what does remain is a sense of community spirit. Hundreds of volunteer firefighters came to fight the blaze. Donations poured in from surrounding communities. Nearby towns, businesses, and churches opened their doors to thousands without a home. Pastor Ron Opmeer got up in the middle of the night to help.
And so people that evening around midnight started to come here to prepare rooms, to have bedding available. The few mattresses and beds that we had would eventually, with Red Cross cots, house about 30 that evening. Many were in shock. They left with just the shirt on their back.
By midweek, the Athabasca Reformed congregation housed 84 people in this former senior center. The congregation didn't even have a building to call their own until a few months ago when they bought this center, and it turned out to be a chance to give back.
That meant a lot to us. We had always known that God has more work for us to do in His name. The word hospitality in the New Testament of the Scriptures means the love of strangers. And often we don't have the opportunity to express that as a church community together. And this was really a God-given opportunity to put those scriptures into action.
Though many of the families are now staying in alternative emergency housing, the support of volunteers will still be needed.
With these kind of disasters, where a person may not know, from day to day, the situation will be different. And so you may think the first 24 hours are the most important. The hit could come later in the week when they found out that the home they thought was still standing is no longer standing.
We're going to work together with them to get them through this.
Now the transition truly begins. The first residents are coming home. Lloyd Sawatzky has lived here for 22 years, but his return after the fire is bittersweet.
Yeah, my house is standing, but I lost my garage. I know lots of people completely lost everything. And where do you start?
You start with the help of 1,500 volunteers and a symbol of unwavering support.
fire truck with the big Canadian flag on it was a big bonus to see. Brings your spirits up a little when you first go past it. Basically 20 years of my life has been in Slave Lake, and I love it for a community.
You just even hearing that dog barking, seeing your friends come back, that's very emotional.
These silent streets will soon fill with those familiar sounds, though no one knows for certain if those who lost their homes will come back to stay. Still, residents like Nancy are holding their heads high.
There will be other people still scattered around, and so that part will be a little difficult, but the Lord will help us through.